Hi, I am Matthew from Winnetka Bowling League, and you are hanging out with Rob from Front Row Live.
I recently just came across a band through Spotify, listening to another band. Their song ended, and then Winnetka Bowling League came up. And I was like, I've never heard of these guys. I've never seen this name before. And then sure enough, it's this guy's new band, Matthew Koma. How are you, man?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
What were you listening to?
I was listening to Bad Sons.
Okay, cool.
And that song ended, and then it went on to the EP that just dropped. So it was like good timing. I feel like you kind of like, I don't know, I feel like that's another promotion scheme going on right now.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Whatever brings people to the tunes. Yeah.
Now, I really dig this music. It's different from what you normally do. You're more on the electronic side. But, you know, coming into this gave me more of a beachy pop vibe. One song took me back to Cake. Do you remember Cake?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, you know, tell me about this new project and what kind of inspired this project for you?
I mean, the electronic thing was more or less an accident. I started kind of...
It's a happy accident.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful for it, and it was a lot of fun to write songs with a lot of those producers and a lot of those artists, but it definitely wasn't an intentional thing. I grew up listening to songwriters and playing in bands and stuff, so it was kind of this weird chapter to start working with so many people in that lane and kind of become known for that.
Right.
So I think all the while I was doing it, I sort of was like, all right, eventually I'm going to pause that and kind of do the thing that I've always wanted to do, which was this. So. Yeah. It just felt like the right time. It felt like I spent a couple of years doing something that I wasn't overly passionate about, but definitely really grateful for the opportunity and the songs that I got to write in that space. But then I just sort of was like, all right, this is the year I make that record that I want to make and start that band that I wanted to start. So here we are.
And as far as that band, has it always been Winnetka Bowling League, or it's just been, you know, you wanted to do a band similar to this?
I mean, I didn't know what it was, to be honest. Like in January or February, I got together with a friend and was sort of just like, I want to do this band thing. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know what it is yet, but let's just start, you know, recording and being in a room together and seeing what comes out. And On the Five was the first song to kind of present itself. And I felt like, oh, that's it. That's the direction. That's I want to be in that band. Whatever that is, I want to go do that and write a record around that. So very quickly, it just became obvious that felt really authentic to me, and I was able to do that naturally. So I went to New York and moved there for a couple of months and just sort of wrote the EP and a couple other songs, and we just started putting stuff out. So
how different was it, you know, not having to do anything electronically, not co-writing with other artists, knowing that it was going to be another artist's record?
It was really nice because I felt like I had the opportunity to not filter anything or be conscious of anybody else's sort of intention.
Right.
So I was able to just write whatever it is I wanted to talk about, both musically and lyrically. So it was really freeing. It felt like it was the most fun I had making music in a really long time.
I bet. I mean, it's been a while since your debut album dropped. Well, I think 2015 or 16.
I've put out an album. I've put out singles before, but an album has actually never officially come out. I've made records, but it's always kind of been like, well, I made a record and I had a bunch of electronic producers help produce it.
So it was never like your record per se.
It just never felt like it. I never felt like, oh, I could go tour this or I could own this. It always sort of felt like, I don't know. I mean, I can't say it wasn't authentic because I wrote songs and they spoke to me in different levels at different times, but not to the degree of this where I feel like it's a complete unashamed representation of me and what I want to be doing.
Right. So you mentioned On the Five was the first single for this record. The 92 Subaru sticks out a lot in this song. I feel like that's a very important piece of this whole entire EP. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's funny, having written most of the record in New York, it wound up being a very California romanticized collection of songs.
How does it work that way?
I don't know. I've been living here for 10 years, but going back to New York for whatever reason, I think I just was able to write about California, write about my life here so far in a different way.
Reminiscing maybe?
Just having some space from it. And yeah, I mean, the 92 Subaru kind of felt like literal and figurative a vehicle for these characters and these songs and these stories. So yeah, but I mean, when On the Five was written, it was kind of like, oh, I see what the album cover is. I want it to be the 92 Subaru on the beach. So I kind of just went with instincts on this. It was like, oh, I wanted it to be that, so it should just be that. What
I like about this record is that there's different sounds in it. So what kind of inspired the different sounds sonically for this record? Like, why did you choose to do it that way?
I don't think I had much of a choice. All of it was recorded in a bedroom in an apartment, and I had like one guitar with me, so even like all the bass parts and stuff were recorded with the guitar pitched down. And I think not having a ton of resources, but wanting to do something that felt organic and not overly electronic or programmed kind of made me feel forced to just use what I have. And that sort of allows for a sonic space to be created, and then you just sort of stick with those ingredients. So I think whenever you make a bunch of songs kind of in the same place or in the same time period when it's very concentrated, they tend to have some sort of cohesive thread through them, and I think sonically that's sort of what happened. It was like, cool, I'm here for 2 months and I wrote these songs like this with the same microphone and the same guitar and sort of trying to be part of the same collection. So and it's reflective of a lot of the stuff I listen to. I'm a huge Elliott Smith fan and huge Beach Boys fan and Elvis Costello, and felt like I got to kind of use those influences for the first time in a while.
Now, is it safe to say, like how I mentioned earlier, it kind of, one of the songs in particular, Feeling California, kind of took me back to those days when Cake was around. So is it kind of safe to say that that might have been somewhat of an inspiration, or do you hear where that kind of comes from? I
mean, I could hear a comparison to it, but I don't know, inspiration's weird for me. I never necessarily am like, oh, I heard that, so that inspired this. It's more of just, I don't know. When I'm in the zone, I'm just kind of going, and it's not till after that there's some sort of, oh yeah, I could see how that's reminiscent of, or it's related to, but yeah.
Now tell me a little bit about the final track, Are You Okay? That one's it seems like a more personal record, and it's more your voice, less instrumentation. So what was that, what was creating that record like? What was it like being vulnerable and knowing that people are going to listen to this?
I never really think about that. Of the 5 songs, that song has been around for a second, and I just hadn't really found a home for it. And when I was finishing up the CP, it felt like the right song to kind of cornerstone the rest, But lyrically, I think everybody's sort of been in that position before, where you're in a serious relationship and you have this deep connection to somebody where you're experiencing a lot of life together, and then suddenly when that's ripped away, it's a very disorienting experience. All the things that are your things are no longer your things, and there's sort of just that feeling of, is that person okay, whether it's this way or that way. So I think it was just a song about that. I remember writing it. It was very much in one sitting and just sort of came out, and it felt special at the time, and it's cool to see people reacting to it and feeling like it's heavy, or it relates to something they've gone through. Or
now, I mean, what was the biggest challenge in creating this EP for you? Was it lyrics? Was it instrumentation?
It didn't feel challenging, honestly. I think spending so many years in a genre that I frankly had no idea about and didn't feel like I necessarily belonged in, this just felt like, oh, I'm finally just doing me. So it didn't feel challenging. It was really easy and really fun.
Now, as I mentioned, like, it feels like the members are kind of secretive in a way. That's what it feels like when you go onto the Facebook, when you go onto the Instagram. Is there a meaning behind that, or are you still trying to figure out your project, who you want involved in your project?
Not so much. I mean, we all met sort of after the first collection of songs was recorded and written, and I think there's something to just not leading with that necessarily. So it wasn't this intent of like, oh, it's this big mystery. It was just kind of not about that. It wasn't about like 5 of us looking at the camera with a mug. It was more just, this is the music and this is the vibe and this is where it lives, and here's kind of pictures that sort of paint the world that the story and these characters seem to live in, and you'll get to know us through that,
Right. Now today you're doing your second show for this project. Yeah. I mean, what was the first show like, and what are the plans for the rest of the, this year?
It was so fun. It's the most fun I've had playing music in such a long time. Just, really, really fun. I keep thinking about it and I keep dreaming about it and coming back to it. So more of that, more shows, more music. We're already recording the next collection of tunes to release somehow, whether it's singles or EP or a full length, whatever it may be. But just more of this, more of playing, more of walking down the path. I feel like I found the vehicle that I'm meant to be in, and now we just get to drive it for as many years as we can. So there's not really any value of like, oh, this is immediately what we need to accomplish. It's kind of like, well, we're just going to be doing this. So as things happen, they happen. And as we build a fan base, we build a fan base. And we're really grateful to have such an early start. And it seemed like people are really starting to come out to the shows, and it resonates with them. That means the world. So
that's incredible. Now, as you kind of mentioned, like, you're already kind of thinking of new material. Did the first show kind of influence your upcoming material? As for example, like, how did this EP kind of resonate to the fans when you guys performed it live? So did that kind of influence on
Not really.
the new stuff?
I mean, to be honest, we just played our first show a week ago, so it was like right back here and then continuing to rehearse and get these songs together. So there hasn't been a ton of time between letting these songs live and breathe yet. And I think especially in first performances with a band, everything's so surreal. You're not really in it. Like, you're there, but it's also like, oh wow, that's over in 2 seconds, and that was cool. What was that? So I don't know if we've processed it yet,
Right. Do you feel you tackled what you wanted to get out of this record when you created it?
Yeah, for sure. Because I didn't have any expectation, and I still don't. It's sort of just fun. that's sort of the gauge. Is like as long as it's fun and I enjoy making it. Anytime it feels like too much work, a song or something, it's like, well, let's just move on from that and get to a place where it feels fun again.
Right. Yeah. Now, for those that haven't heard of the EP or the band yet, like, what is Winnetka Bowling League all about?
I don't know. You tell me. What are we about?
I don't know, man. I personally, listening to it is just, I just want to travel to California. I want to take get a convertible and then just drive down the coast.
All right.
That's what I experienced.
So we should like team up with like a car rental company.
There we go. That works.
Enterprise, maybe we'll like sit in the back seat and play tunes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like for me, it's always been songs and words and melody first, and it's definitely a band that allows that to be the foundation of it. But yeah, so far feels like just kind of a combination of what we grew up listening to without trying to put it too much in this or that category. Even like when we were thinking about the show, it's like, well, it's just 5 of us playing music, and that's what the show is. So yeah, sort of.
Did you think much about the lyrics? Like, did you struggle with the lyrics at all, or they just kind of flowed for you?
Definitely thought about them. Not really a struggle, but storytelling is sort of what I grew up valuing. So that's the most important sort of fuel for me. So absolutely thoughtful, but I really enjoyed it because I knew that I was getting to speak within something that was totally mine, so I cared very much about the detail of it.
Right. Awesome, dude. Well, congratulations with the debut EP. You guys be sure to check out Winnetka Bowling League. The debut EP is out now. They're signed to RCA Records, and hopefully there's more shows coming up real soon. So thanks for watching on Front Row Live.